All right, got my lift kit, 6-foot lift kit installed. Doing a fuel pump in the Comanche, 86, 2.5 liter, 4-speed. Not that it really matters for the fuel pump, I don't think. But when I got this, the fuel gauge did not work. Basically, it was just pegged at like beyond full all the time. When I turn the key on, it's reading right at full right now because I was just messing with it, but when I turn the key on, it basically just pegs all the way over at like 3 o'clock, I think, and basically just sits there. It doesn't give me a fuel reading. But when, so there's three lines to, 3 wires to the pump. One of them's the ground, one of them's the signal for just the fuel level, and then the third one is for the low fuel light, which always worked. So basically it would just ride like this all the time, and then at some point my gas would get down low enough and the little orange light in the corner would turn on, and the gauge would start to actually, you know, drop down. It was always just so intermittent because the fuel was sloshing around. I never allowed it to go low long enough to see if the gauge would actually stay at a specific location and then actually kind of be accurate, or if it would just like peg to empty. But basically for a few months, that's how I was figuring out how much, you know, basically just when I needed gas. So as soon as I saw that light flicker, you know, when I'd accelerate and the gas would slosh around, I'd go, oh crap, time to go to the gas station. And so far it's worked. But I noticed that I think even that is inaccurate because the gas tank, I believe, is supposed to be a 23.5 gallon tank, but the most I've ever been able to fit in the tank when that says low is like 12 gallons. So I'm like, well, there's no way. I think even my signal for my low fuel is inaccurate. Like it's telling me I'm low when I'm at like 50% basically. So basically, the only company that I'm aware of that makes one of these fuel pumps for the Comanche is MTS Company out of Iowa. I called a real nice guy, talked to him, told him what I had, what I needed. I think it was Jeremy I talked to, but I don't remember. Basically, I told him, hey, I've got an 86 Comanche, 2.5 liter, side mounted, and I want the whole sending unit. I want everything. I want, you know, a new little lock ring. I want a new O-ring. I want the whole damn thing. Because while, you know, my fuel pump worked fine, it was just the sending unit, the signal basically that I was getting that was bad. So thankfully, like the earlier Cherokees, this is a side mounted one. I'm going to have to fight these hoses a little bit and come back to you guys in the video, but essentially just to confirm that my problem is going to be solved, what I did here is I'm just going to unplug the stock fuel pump. As far as I can tell, it's the original fuel pump. My MJ only has 57,000 miles on it. And then hang on a second here. Okay, so basically what I did there is I just plugged in the new fuel pump so I can manipulate the fuel level and confirm that it's actually going to fix my issue. And it is. It's going to fix it. I've already tested this before I pulled the video out. So key on, and boom, it's immediately going to low because it's just sitting here in the low position. But you can see when I move it up to where it would be full, now the gauge is slowly moving its way up to full, and it'll eventually get there. I've already tested this out, but you know, basically then I put it back to empty, and it immediately gives you the light, and it's going down to empty. So I have not actually pulled the fuel pump out yet to confirm that mechanically this thing is of sound design and everything will match up and made up perfectly. But I figured I would do a second part, splice the two videos together, and just kind of confirm, because there's not a lot of options out there for fuel pumps for these things. I had hoped that it would be easy to take my Cherokee fuel tank and actually put it in here, because it's a brand new tank with a brand new pump. And you know, I know it could be done. You could do it in such a way that it would function. But I didn't really want to mess with that, and there's nothing wrong with my fuel tank. So basically, it's as simple as just disconnecting the two lines there, which, you know, it looks the same on my new one there. It's got the same two lines. Popping the little lock ring out, pull the fuel pump out, and, you know, boom, sack of potatoes. So if you guys can't figure out taking two lines off in one of these little basically just look up a YouTube video for doing a Jeep Cherokee fuel pump. Obviously it's going to be a Comanche instead, but it's the exact same side-mounted process as the 96 and older Cherokees. 97 and up, they put the damn fuel pump on top of the tank, which is stupid. Look at that, no rust. So yeah, just look up a quick video for actually, you know, I'm sure there's a much more in-depth video about popping the actual sending unit outside of the tank. Just look up a Cherokee one. They're a piece of cake. It's like a flat blade screwdriver, a hammer to kind of tap the ring, you know, a couple sockets or screwdrivers to pull these hoses off. I'd like to maybe replace these hoses, but I'm not going to do it right now. And I will come back to a second part of the video to show that everything's working and functioning once this is all plugged in. So I'll be back. Old pump, pretty nasty and dirty filter sock there, a lot of corrosion on it, but I guess I've seen worse. New pump all looks pretty good. The old O-ring is, geez, just stuck on there. Everything looks pretty picture perfect. I mean, I lined up the lock rings, they match up. Everything looks good. I mean, like I showed earlier in the video, plugging this one in to the harness and then manipulating the level seems to want to work. This actually might have been giving me an accurate signal to the low fuel. I don't know what. Somewhat accurate, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that this is a 23.5 gallon tank, unless there's just some other option. And when I'm getting a low reading, it only takes 12 gallons and it's full at you know, different pumps, different gas stations. You know, letting it top off or letting it sit for a little bit after I put some gas in it, then trying to top it off. I can never get any more than about 12 gallons in it when it says low. It is, looking at the fuel level, I mean, it's definitely down there. It's beyond a half tank for sure. So I'm not really sure what it's supposed to trip at, like how much, sorry, I got a stuffy nose. I'm not sure how many gallons roughly that you're supposed to have remaining when that light comes on, but you know, it doesn't, without, I don't know, I haven't really tried to figure out how much gas I'm using. My trip meter won't reset, so I haven't really tried to get, you know, an idea of what my miles per gallon are yet. maybe I'm just getting real bad gas mileage. It seems like I'm burning up my gas faster than I should, and that my tank is smaller than it is supposed to be. So I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but internet says 23.5 gallons. I find that hard to believe. I mean, whatever. But it's out. I'm about to finagle that back in there. Getting this one out, it definitely needed to kind of come out and twist sideways towards the back of the vehicle. You know, imagine I'm looking right at the tank hole like this, and then I kind of manipulated that out. You have to kind of reach up with the second hand and make sure this thing isn't flopping around, catching on the tank. It ain't hard. It's just, you got to kind of wiggle it into a sweet spot. So I'm gonna get this one up in there, splice the videos back together, and you know, see if everything works. Hopefully my old crusty hoses don't leak. We'll get around to swapping those some other day. All right, after a lot of blood rushing out of my arms and yelling at inanimate objects, the pump is in. I don't know what it was, but I really struggled to get that thing held up there square so I could get that damn lock ring engaged. I honestly, for an hour and a half, I fought and I could not get this new one in there. So I just used the old one, you know, whatever. Just a lock ring, doesn't really matter. It's in there, it's locked. So it's in there. I did notice while I was installing it that these new lines actually come out and then they shoot to the right in the new pump, whereas the old ones came out just pointed straight out. So all I did is just take about that much off of each of the fuel hoses. Basically, I just, right where the hoses had the curve going, because they had about a 70-degree angle to them, I just cut right there at the beginning of the straight point. It did leave me a little bit too little to get the lines, keep them clipped in there. So short term, it'll work fine, and honestly, long term, it'll probably work too. I mean, I really don't see those going anywhere. There's no reason they should wobble or move. At some point here this summer, when I have the thing up on stands and I'm doing my axles and suspension and lift and all that stuff, I'm going to replace those soft lines right there that go from the pump to just there. I mean, we're talking like, you know, 8 inches of rubber. So I'll make sure I get long enough where I can get those things clipped back in. But got the little pigtail kind of zippied up out of the way. The filter's only got like 1,000 miles on it. I did that when I got the Jeep, and I've put maybe 1,500 miles on it. So I'll keep running that for a little bit. But basically, safety first. Got the wheels chalked because I've got it in neutral, and the old wiggle test. So I can hear the pump. Don't know if you guys did, but I did. Fires up. So again, it seems like the gauge isn't super accurate on these. Like, I mean, I definitely have a few gallons of gas in there for sure. I don't think it's really as low as that gauge is wanting to say. I don't know, something's just kind of screwy, but at least my gauge does work now. So I'm gonna head to the gas station and fill it up and probably watch that thing climb up, just because like I said, when I was testing the operation of the pump, making sure that it communicated and worked and everything, prior to installing it, as I messed with the float, position, it absolutely works. So I think we're good. I mean, time will tell, but time to retire this 39-year-old hunk of junk. And you know what? Maybe I'll hang on to that. Just kidding. Because the pump does work. So short term, if maybe not a bad idea to hang on to that for a little bit, just to feel out this new one and make sure everything's good on it and it seems to be reliable. Because if I have to put this back in there, short term, it'll at least do the job. So for those of you guys wondering, I paid the sending unit was, I think, $102 there. Shipping was about 15 bucks. I chose to do a little bit quicker shipping. And then the pump itself was 55. So you can buy just the pump from them. You can buy just the lock ring. So there's the part numbers for what I got. And then I think that's the pump number for the actual like complete unit for my specific vehicle, because I have the 2.5 liters. So cool. Keep this thing going. Gas gauge is going up, so it works. So you guys saw, shut up radio. You guys saw how low that gauge said I was, and it only took 11.3 gallons, and that was after trying to top it off a couple times to squeeze a little extra in there. So oh, it's stopping at like a half tank. Kind of wondering if this gas tank is like half the size it's supposed to be. You know, is it like a 13 or 14 gallon tank? Because I literally just tested when I put this pump in that the float lifted all the way up, actually switched my gauge to full. Yeah, my tack doesn't work. That's the next thing. But now with an actual full tank, I'm only at a half tank. So I don't know. It's almost like my pump is for a you know, this 23.5 gallon tank that the old internet says I'm supposed to have. But my tank is half that, so I don't know. I guess I'll have to look into seeing if there's a bigger gas tank that I can buy and swap out, and then just bump this pump over to that, because I don't want to only have, you know, 13 gallons at my disposal. And you know, at some point I want to get like a overland kind of bed rack for this. It's going to get built quite a bit, and you know, I'll have an extra 4 gallons in my my Rotopacks cans available. So you know, if I'm out kind of in the boonies, I'll have a little more gas at my disposal. Well, hey, at least I have a gauge now. All right, I think I figured it out. Thanks to forums. So, let's get some lights. Camera. So, it seems like the 16-gallon tank is what I have, and a 23.5 is an option. From what I understand, the 86 is really kind of a bastard year, which is what this is. It's the first year they did it. But that would make sense as to why 12 is like the most I've ever been able to really get to go in there. When looking at the earlier part of this video, it definitely looked like there were still 3 or 4 gallons sitting in there. It wasn't empty by any means. Well, you take 3 or 4 plus 12, that's 16. So, basically, I've confirmed, looking at the part number on the receipt, that the fuel pump is for the 18 or 23.5 gallon. So, obviously, with the... Oh, sorry. Heartburn's getting me. Obviously, the way that the angle of the float is set up, it's designed to kind of send a signal for a different setup of a tank. Basically what I'm thinking is over time I'm going to source a 23.5 gallon, because I'd love to have a bigger tank than 16. I mean, for now I'm just putting the thing around, but before I take it up and I kind of go overlandy type stuff with it, I definitely want to have more gas at my disposal. So what I'll probably do is to finish my 4x4 swap, I'm going to have to get a parts Comanche. I'm gutting my Cherokee, getting rid of that. I'm taking my axles and suspension and everything, putting it over into the Comanche. So I'll have a 4x4 axle. I have a transfer case. I don't have a 4-wheel drive transmission for Comanche. So at some point down the road, I'm going to get a donor Comanche, and hopefully it'll be one that has a larger tank, and then basically I'll just take that fuel pump and drop the tank, put the bigger tank in, put my new fuel pump into that, and then I think I'll be able to get a higher than like 55-60% fuel reading. But hey, for now, mission accomplished. I have a gauge, seems to be somewhat accurate. I can at least get some semblance of peace of mind knowing how much fuel I have. Basically knowing that, hey, 55% is actually 16 gallons. So whatever. If this helped anyone, cool. Keep you guys updated as the project goes on.